So welcome today to this month's Making the Familiar Strange. We're going to be exploring the holidays with Laura French. Just a reminder that our goals for Making the Familiar Strange are to study Abrahamic scriptural stories alongside each other, as well as other things like holidays, traditions. We're sort of expanding our reach with Making the Familiar Strange. It's also to encourage perspective taking by looking at familiar stories from new points of view. The ground rules, as always, are to be as respectful as possible, to challenge your own assumptions, speak from your own point of view, and to be open to a new perspective. Sometimes some of these conversations, because they're new perspectives and new points of view, they can be a little uncomfortable, and that's okay, but it's just to be open and be gracious to yourself and others. Just some upcoming events we have next month's Making the Familiar Strange is going to be with Graciela Sharif and Sarah Kanabi, both from AMI, and they're going to be talking about, I think right now their plan is to talk about their work with children with disabilities and how their faith plays into that. On the following Thursday, on July 20th, we have our Coffee on the Commons, which is always the third Thursday of the month, and that's at 11:30 at the Tri-Faith Center. And then on, my S is the wrong color, but on Sunday, September 10th will be United We Walk, and that's where we're going to all get together and invite the entire community and have musicians and food trucks and booths and walk around the Commons as a show of unity here in Omaha. And I think that's all of my announcements. Oh, yeah, that's it. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass it over to Laura.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So starting with a disclaimer, I feel a little bit forward being a presenter because I haven't been affiliated with Tri-Faith that long, but there was a cancellation. I knew I was going to be doing a presentation for a class on June 8th that could be repurposed, and so here I am. And so I will, this is always the scary part where I have to actually do stuff with the computer, but with any luck, it won't last long. Okay. Here we go. Let's see, closed caption. Okay. Okay. And Eileen Arnold is joining. Okay, so let's see, how do I get rid of this participant thing? Will it close? Will it just close? So can you guys see the participant list there?
No.
Okay.
No, we can just see your PowerPoint screen. Yeah.
So if I actually start the slideshow, we should be ready to go.
That looks great.
So maybe I can move that. Okay, there we go.
And Laura, I'll just say that I'll keep an eye on the chat. If anybody has any questions or anything, I can jump in with that.
And what I was going to mention is, in terms of questions, I think what might work is if you have questions as we go along, maybe type them into the chat so you don't forget them. But it does sort of build. And so maybe if you ask a question, it might be answered later. And so if you're okay with doing it that way, if it's a pressing question and I've completely lost you, by all means, butt in and ask the question. But otherwise, there should be time at the end. So
great. That sounds great.
So this is probably going to look backwards to everybody, but I blatantly stole the title. We Are What We Celebrate, Making Meaning Through Holidays and Rituals is the title of this book. And this whole thing came about because, I took a graduate class called Celebration and Commemoration in Jewish Life at the Spertus Institute in Chicago back in June. Ironically, the teacher was Leonard Greenspoon, who's from Creighton. So I flew to Chicago, rented a hotel room, took a lot of public transportation, and we could have met at the bagel bin, but oh well, life is like that. But one of the articles that I was assigned for the class was by Amitai Etzioni. And I can't tell you how thrilled I was to see the name Amitai Etzioni, because when I was a high school debater, which was in a completely different millennium, Amitai Etzioni had an article for everything. So if you had the negative argument, your positive argument, refuting the positive argument, refuting, Amitai Etzioni had the perfect quote. So it was kind of like, you know, rediscovering my high school crush when I was assigned this article by Amitai Etzioni. And so I went out to, you know, get a little bio of him, and I discovered that my presentation was scheduled for June 8th. Amitai Etzioni died on June 1st. So, you know, it was actually the 7-day mourning period when I gave my presentation. He was 92, and his Time magazine obituary said, sometimes Amitai Etzioni seems to be a one-man profession, which certainly was my experience of him. And I don't know why sometimes this thing doesn't want to advance. Okay, his Washington Post obituary talked about him as an academic and a public intellectual, but the main thing that was his life's work is what's kind of described down there in the last line, which is instead of relying on the law to promote a good society, we should primarily use the moral voice. And so for Amitai Etzioni, holidays were very much how we implement that moral voice to create the good society. And so holiday. When Amitai Etzioni was talking about holidays, by definition, he was talking about days on which custom or law dictates halting of general business activity to commemorate or celebrate a particular event. And he called them seed beds of virtue. So what I'll get to at the end, that's what I'm kind of working on in this academic research paper. Etzioni, for all of his care and rigor, just kind of said, and you know, ritual, holiday, 2 words for the same thing. No, it's really not. And so we'll get to that in a bit. But he specifically was talking about holidays. He was building on the work of another sociologist named Emil Durkheim, he used the word ritual. And so Etzioni just kind of went, well, yeah, I'm talking about holidays, that's the same thing. So what Durkheim said is that, you know, we have our daily life, we have our routine, we have our social chores. Basically, it's hard to think about your moral purpose while you're scrubbing the bathtub, right? I mean, as you go about those things, or, you know, you've got a deadline for work, you're really not thinking about what is the meaning of life. And so what he said is that this creates what he called a centrifugal individualism. And I was thinking about how we use the phrase getting wrapped up in work. And that's really what he's talking about. You know, I mean, you just sort of go like that, and eventually your world closes in. So what Durkheim said is that societies have to continually shore up commitments to common goals and practices. And so Durkheim used the word rituals. And so rituals intentionally practiced really continue to recreate society. Now, here's the part that, you know, when we talk about this could be a little challenging. I don't know how you feel about this. The specifics of rituals and objects have no intrinsic value or meaning beyond what we give them. And so holidays don't know that they're holidays, and you know, when it happens, or you know, the date on the calendar, that is humanly determined according to this theory. And then I love this. This is how sociologists talk, and this is why I'm having so much fun with the academic research paper. Rituals correlate negatively with societal disintegration. So they're not quite willing to go out on a limb and say that rituals create social integration, because there's not enough data. But basically what they're saying is that, you know, rituals kind of do hold us together. So where Etzioni kind of advanced the cause, Durkheim just said, ritual, it's all integrative. That's what it does. It's good. It holds society together. Etzioni kind of took that apart a little bit. And so what he said is, first of all, no two holidays serve exactly the same societal role. So we have to look at, the differences. What is this holiday designed to accomplish? And not all holidays are integrative for society at large. So there can be holidays that are particular to one religious group or another religious group, to one ethnic group, to one part of the country. And so it tends to hold that group together, and it might be either neutral, other groups might not even be aware of it. In some cases, it can actually be sort of negative for other groups, as we'll see in a minute. So, and then what Etzioni said is there are two main types of holidays. The first is the recommitment holiday, and that is created to directly reinforce a commitment to shared beliefs. But then Etzioni also talked about tension management holidays. And so those are the holidays that allow people to kind of blow off steam, which in turn allows them to recommit. And so if you didn't have the tension management, you might feel really hemmed in, and you might start to resent the tradition. And so you're allowed, a little time to be naughty, sort of. So on the next slide, I have a list, and I'm going to have to change the view here, I think, because I can't see everybody. How do I do?
Reduce view gallery side by side gallery. That will give you everything along the side.
Well, let's see. I can.
Up in the meeting controls, if you push your mouse all the way up to the top, you should get the meeting controls back.
I can't. Well, okay, so Megan, you'll have to monitor it for me. But what I'm going to do is, here's a list of holidays. If you think it's a recommitment holiday, let's do the Vulcan salute, right? So we're recommitting ourselves to this value with this holiday. And if you think it's a tension release holiday, maybe blow off steam, right? So, so let's act out our opinions of these holidays. Independence Day, recommitment or letting off steam? So Lisa feels very strongly recommitment, and I agree with you. Yes, yeah. Irene too, and Kat, we're all trying to master the Vulcan salute, but yes, I think we've got it now. How about Mardi Gras?
Steam.
Yeah, tension release, definitely. Thanksgiving. Recommitment, yes, absolutely. Purim. Tension release. New Year's Eve. Tension release. Passover. Recommitment. And Christmas. Recommitment. So you got it. Okay. So recommitment is the most familiar. We think about Easter, we think about Passover. With Passover specifically, the commandment is to tell the story. So there's a lot of food, and there's a lot of other stuff, and there's some really good Jack Black videos if you want to play those. But really what we're commanded to do is tell the story. So it's openly dedicated to socialization, and there's a focus on children. So make sure the younger generation knows what the story is. Recommitment holidays are rich with symbols. And Durkheim's hypothesis, again, is that people who participate in holidays will be more committed after the holidays than they were before. Tension management, those holidays are kind of riskier. They might backfire, they might sort of not work, we might forget why we're doing this. But New Year's Eve, Mardi Gras, Purim, Oktoberfest, Etzioni is a little isn't quite sure about Halloween and April Fool's Day. Maybe those are, maybe they aren't. But it's a time when antisocial behavior is adopted. And man, if you go back into looking at Mardi Gras in the Middle Ages, whoo, I mean, we think we're fancy throwing beads and maybe occasionally flashing strangers in New Orleans. Oh, this was like way beyond that, right? So the theory among cultures that have tension management holidays is that people can't be fully socialized. And so if you insist that people be totally socialized and focused and behave, the alienation will build up. And so what you do is allow this sort of, pressure valve so that people can have a sort of a legal way to let off steam and then say, okay, fine, I'm good. I'm ready to be part of the culture again. Etzioni says that clear time limits are probably a good idea. And so Mardi Gras is followed by Ash Wednesday. So you have this tension release holiday that is followed by a time that is really about, restraint, self-sacrifice, giving things up. But he also acknowledges that really there probably aren't pure types. So even recommitment holidays like Thanksgiving, we get a day off work. There tends to be some really good food. So there's still a little bit of tension release. But, we were really clear in our hand signals, which was which. So we get that. And so again, holidays have no intrinsic meaning. They are what we make them. And that might be the part, I don't know, where some people might be a little uncomfortable. This might be the sort of strange part of it. And the meaning can change over time. The meaning can be updated, or the same holiday can mean different things to different groups. So allow me to vent. This is kind of a personal pet peeve of mine. Columbus Day. Columbus Day was never about Columbus. Columbus Day was first celebrated in 1792 in New York City, and there was a presidential proclamation in 1892, the same year that the Knights of Columbus was founded as a benefit society for Catholic immigrants. So Columbus Day was about saying to the Protestants of New England and the Protestants of Virginia and, the Mid-Atlantic, Roman Catholics were on this hemisphere way before Protestants. So take down your no Irish or dogs allowed signs. We're here, we belong. So really it was about inclusion. And it was about recommitment for Italian and Catholic immigrants. Over time, it became a holiday of alienation for Native Americans. And so there's been a lot of tension over the last, 10 or 20 years, but every time it was never about Columbus. So that's my only point. So every time somebody wants to protest Columbus Day by coming up with all the bad things that Columbus did, really, that was never the point. Now, at some point in recent years, I realized that there are no Protestants on the United States Supreme Court. So maybe I can let go of my little pet peeve about that, because times do change. So spring holidays are a really fascinating example. And when I say holidays have no intrinsic value, I mean, that's what sociologists say, but if you look at holidays, it's almost like they have such a strong tie to us that the holiday keeps stepping forward and saying, no, I'm still here, you have to still celebrate me, and I know that you've changed your beliefs, but don't let me go. So in the Jewish calendar and the Christian calendar, we have holidays that are tied to the vernal equinox in very strange calculations. And so Passover uses the lunar calendar. Easter, this is one of the few movable feasts on the Christian calendar. And they added a little half step so that they can say it has nothing to do with the date of Passover. Okay, but it has to do with full moons after the vernal equinox. So, you know, on the second day of Passover, Jews begin counting the Omer, and we count the Omer for 50 days, and that's the barley harvest. And so the idea was, how are the crops doing? Is this going to be a good year? You know, we need to pray that everybody will have enough to eat. On the Christian calendar, in the old days, this has kind of gotten dropped out, but there was something called rogation days, which was a prayer for good crops. And rogation days, there were a couple of different sets, but one of them started 3 days before the Feast of the Ascension. Lag Bomer is day 33 of the counting of the Omer, and it's kind of a little bit of a tension release thing. You can get a haircut, for example. The Christian calendar, the Feast of the Ascension, comes 40 days after Easter, and then 50 days after these major vernal holidays. Jews have Shavuot, which was the revelation of Torah to the Israelites, and Christians have Pentecost, which is the revelation to the disciples. And so both of them have, now this is another, again, scary. I don't want to sign up. Don't sign me up. So this is how, can you see that? Can everybody see that? Can't see that. Oh, now I have to find the thing again. Share.
Do a new share and then you can switch the window.
New share and then switch the window. Well, let's see. Isn't there a way to just share? Okay, stop share. Stop share. And then what? New share?
Okay, yeah, you use new share if you had something up on the screen. Now you just share screen. And pick a
Okay.
different one. But if you already have something on, you use new share and you can just seamlessly flip it.
So can you see that now?
No, you need to share your screen again with the new window.
Share my screen in a new window. Now I can't even see this.
Now choose the browser that you opened the link in.
Okay. So, share screen. Share screen. But you can't see that yet.
Okay, now do the new share up where close to where it said and stop share. There should be an option.
New share.
New share.
Okay. Okay, there, just like that. Okay, that was it.
There you go.
Okay, so this is Michelangelo, his depiction of Moses coming down from Sinai with horns. And it's amazing how many Jewish people, like around my age, will have been asked as kids, let me see your horns. My parents say Jews have horns. It comes from this. It was a mistranslation. It said that Moses was radiant. And so they did a bad job with the Hebrew. And so the sculptor gave Michelangelo horns. So there you go. Okay, so let me see if I've learned anything. This is, okay, so this is, I've learned nothing.
You'll need to share screen again with either one you started, or just go to the one that you want to click the link on and click on the link and open it and then share that.
Okay. New share. There we go.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, and this is Pentecost. And so again, there's this idea that there are flames, there's some sort of radiant enlightenment that's coming down on people. And again, both of these holidays happen to be 50 days after that, that sort of vernal ceremony that we celebrate. And now I don't know how I make this thing go away. Okay. And
This
now,
is where you could try the new share option to go back to the PowerPoint
oh,
instead of stopping it.
you can't see the PowerPoint now?
No, because you'll need to switch it. You'll need to either do new share or stop share and share a new.
Okay. So let's see, I want to share screen. I want to, share the PowerPoint. But I think, okay, there we go. What I would really like to do though is get rid of, for some reason, I've got this participant window that's opened up and I can't see the screen, but anyway.
You should be able to, there's at the bar at the top of the participant window, you should be able to slide it over, kind of click and drag it. You may be able to.
There we go.
Move
Okay.
it.
And let's see, I think I missed a slide.
There's a left arrow to all the way over to.
Okay, there we go. Let me just make sure that I didn't, yeah, okay. So, again, comparing Muslim and Jewish traditions, and I feel a little bit out of my element because I don't know a lot about Islamic traditions, but coming up a week from today is a major Muslim holiday called Eid ul-Adha, the Feast of the Sacrifice, which celebrates Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his son Ishmael. A sheep is offered instead. And Jewish people who go to Rosh Hashanah services might be familiar with the Akedah, which is the binding of Isaac, which is the Torah portion that's read on Rosh Hashanah that celebrates Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his son Isaac, and a goat is offered instead. So, and the link I'm not even going to try because I think it was a live link, and what was there yesterday is not there today. But one of the interesting things about the Muslim and Jewish calendars and the way tradition perpetuates itself in holidays is that we continue to pretend that in 2023, there is absolutely no sure way to find out when the new lunar month starts. So, if you're in the holy city of the religion and you can look up with a telescope and see the sky, then you can say that it's, the new moon or the full moon. Otherwise, whew, man, we have no way of knowing. And so there actually was a breaking news story yesterday on this Middle Eastern channel that showed the guy with the telescope that's, kind of Best Buy level telescope, and he's looking up, and yes, he has spotted the moon, and so we can have the holiday. In the little group that I was in the class earlier this month, we were asked to either get rid of a holiday, repurpose a holiday, or add a holiday. And the rabbi in the group said, please, can we get rid of the second day of, a lot of Jewish holidays, because we still pretend that we have no way of knowing when the lunar cycle really starts. And so if you live outside of Jerusalem, you have to celebrate for 2 days just to make sure. And if you're a rabbi, you're kind of going, really? Because I think I can look that up on HeapCal and, spare us all a lot of trouble. But, that's what we continue to pretend to ourselves. So there's also a holiday next month called Ashura, and same day, same 24-hour period. For Shia Muslims, it's celebrated as a day of mourning for the grandson of the Prophet. For Sunni Muslims, it's celebrated as basically the day of the giving of Torah. So again, two, the same religion, two portions of the same religion that are saying, you know, this is what the holiday is about. And if you think that we don't do that as Jews, Purim is referred to in the Bible as the Feast of Mordecai. And apparently there's a theory that it really was kind of, you know, it was a recommitment ceremony. And so it was supposed to get people to, you know, be excited about the dynasty of Mordecai. Yeah, whatever. And that wasn't working too well. So we said, no, really, it's about Queen Esther and the salvation of the Jews. And it has become a tension release, and it seems pretty successful from what I saw at Temple Israel at the Purim celebration. And Hanukkah, nobody knows why we celebrate Hanukkah, people. I mean, there is an academic cottage industry of people publishing articles about why we celebrate Hanukkah. So, you know, there's a story that it's about the miracle of the oil, and there was only one crude of oil and it burned for 8 days. Okay, but why did they need 8 days worth of oil? Oh, gee, I don't know. It must have been some, I don't know. The Maccabees are not mentioned in the Jewish Bible, apparently because the rabbis who decided what went in the Jewish Bible weren't big fans of the Maccabees, because the Maccabees were opposed to other Jews as well as being opposed to Greeks. And they were what we'd call religious extremists. So they just kind of ruled them out and foregrounded this thing about the oil. And we don't really know what the oil is about, but we keep celebrating Hanukkah. And so the whole point of this is that ritual matters. And so, yes, scholars should keep trying to figure out why we are celebrating Hanukkah and what the 8 days were about. But effective ritual has this effect of committing us to the community that we're a part of. And so now that I've given up, you know, being upset about Columbus Day, I can start haranguing Jews about stop apologizing for Hanukkah. Because, you know, the ongoing thing is it was always a minor holiday until, you know, now we're around Christmas. And so we feel like we have to celebrate Hanukkah. What Etzioni would say is, yes, exactly. That's the point of a recommitment holiday, is that if you are raising Jewish children in a pluralistic culture, you need to foreground Hanukkah. In Israel, which is a, you know, mostly Jewish culture, they don't make a big deal of Hanukkah. Why would they? Right? They don't really need it. And so this is what I'm kind of adding to the mix in my research paper, is that there's the holiday, but also the holiday has to have some effective ritual with it. Lack of or ineffective ritual, I would submit Shavuot in the Jewish tradition. It should be the most important holiday of the Jewish year. It is the celebration of receiving the Torah. The ritual is to study Torah all night. And then there's cheesecake. And so if I could make a suggestion to, you know, to my Christian friends, add cheesecake to Pentecost and see if it improves turnout. But the thing about Shavuot, it's in the evening, there's childcare problems. You know, it was great when only men were going to show up and participate in study, but now it just kind of has problems with it. And so the turnout is pretty small for what should be a huge deal. And then our various kind of accession days, you know, President's Day, yay, buy a refrigerator. I don't know, right? And Martin Luther King Day, I'm afraid, has kind of gone the same way. It was supposed to be a day of going out and doing volunteer social action. I think that hasn't really caught on. And so I'm kind of worried about Juneteenth now that it's become national. Is that gonna somehow, well, we got the day off work and that's what it was about. So in terms of creating really great new traditions, now I'm going to try to do a dangerous thing again, but a brand new tradition that I can't find it. I had it on my computer, but I can't find it. Oh, well, I give up. In Israel, the 2 minutes of silence for the fallen soldiers of Israel is an incredible moment. And there are videos, and I thought I had one queued up here. But, this is a relatively new holiday, a new society, and to watch, the traffic pulls over, everything stops for 2 minutes. And when you're talking about, a cessation of everyday life, that really is what that is all about, and it really works. So with that, that is the end of the presentation. And so I have no idea where I am. Am I sharing anything at this point?
No, it's just the group chat.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so I will open the gallery view. And any questions, any comments? Any surprises, I hope.
One comment I had was thinking about like St. Patrick's Day and like why is St. Patrick's Day the day is, and it's because it's the only feast day that falls during Lent. So it's definitely the blowing off steam. It's the one day that you get to eat, drink, and be merry during Lent. So
that I did not know that.
Yeah, I never knew that until like the last few years, and I like looked it up. I was like, why is this so?
Okay.
Why is St. Patrick? Has nothing to do with St. Patrick.
Okay.
So
yeah, and I think they de-sanctified St. Patrick a while ago.
Oh.
So I did not know. That's really interesting. And St. Patrick's Day is an interesting one because I think because they didn't emphasize the purpose enough. But yeah, I'm Irish and we call it amateur night and stay home. And in Chicago, they dye the river green. It's supposed to do something that I'm not really sure about. Yeah. So other questions, comments?
There is one Protestant on the Supreme Court. And I suspect she's a fundamentalist Christian.
And that is Amy Barrett?
Yes.
Okay.
She's I thought she was Catholic.
I just looked it. I looked it up, and it listed her as Protestant. So I don't know. I just
yeah, because I also
but Neil Gorsuch is an Episcopalian. So
I always thought that she was Catholic, and so maybe I came up with that before she was appointed. So maybe
this thing that I read might have been wrong. I just looked up what are the religions of the Supreme Court. It listed them.
Okay. All right. So maybe I need to go back to my Columbus Day right now. I'm done with that. Really, I'm done with that. But
yeah. there definitely were times where there were no Protestants on the Supreme Court in the not too distant past. So
yeah.
But yeah. Which I always thought was very interesting.
So does anybody else have any holiday pet peeves, things that you wish were celebrated more effectively that aren't, or that are particularly? I had, and I got rid of it, and I'm glad given all of my technical glitches. I loved Maundy Thursday, which is, the evening before Good Friday. And it is the stripping of the altar And the choir sings a song, and it's very beautiful. And what's really wonderful about that one, because if you go out there, there are people who are as obsessed about Maundy, Thursday, you know, really that's out of order, because if it's about stripping Jesus of his dignity, it's 24 hours in advance, and it takes away from Good Friday. And really what anybody from the altar guild will tell you is that altar has to be stripped. You know, I mean, they have like 48 hours to get all the silver polished, all of the altar dressings cleaned and pressed. And so if you play your cards right, you can have the clergy do all of that for you as part of a religious thing. And, you know, it kind of works. So.
Dory just looked up what I had told you, and I was wrong. She is Catholic. I think that it's a shame that major holidays like Thanksgiving, Christmas, Passover, some of these holidays have gotten to the point where people are just praying to have them over with, because there's so much you have to do. There's so much tension going on. It's almost too bad that we just can't wake up that morning and there it is, and all the hullabaloo didn't have to be, and people can enjoy them.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I've thought about, you know, particularly with Thanksgiving, there are all of the jokes and memes now that float around about, you know, can you be at the same table with your left wing, right wing, with, you know, uncle, whoever, and not have things explode. And in some ways, that's a testament to that's what holidays are supposed to do. You know, you should be able to recommit to family for 24 hours. But yeah, and there's a whole this book has a whole thing about how you know, commercialism became part of, and things that used to be celebrated publicly are now celebrated privately, so that we can exclude, you know, we can have our little subgroup and exclude other people. And I think it does kind of add to the stress. I agree. Like, how are you guys spending 4th of July?
One of my neighbors does a lot of fireworks, and so I'll enjoy those. And people that come also, they live right across the street from me, so they use my driveway and my yard to sit in as well. So that's what I'm doing.
Okay. Because I was kind of reflecting based on this book that when I was a kid, there was a big public parade in Moorhead, Minnesota, down Center Avenue. And then we went to the American Legion Hall, where my stepfather and all of his, you know, people of his vintage actually critiqued their marching, you know, how well were they in step. And then in the evening, the American Legion sponsored fireworks. So after the people had been drinking in the American Legion all day, they went and set off large fireworks at the college, which was eventful sometimes. But then, you know, I was thinking about this. My parents got more financially stable and bought a lake cottage, and then we moved the celebration to the lake cottage, and it became a very private sort of thing. You know? Now I live near Brownville, Nebraska, and if I can put in a pitch, Brownville, Nebraska has a great, very public, all-day 4th of July celebration that really, you know, takes it back into the public sphere where perhaps it belongs. I don't know. So let's see, chat is blowing up. Let's see, what are we saying? Okay, thank you. So the spring equinox is celebrated in Iran, and it has its origins in the Zoroastrian tradition. And yeah, I think I saw that somewhere, yeah. And Oh, good. Dory has provided us with the BBC link to the 2 minutes of silence. Thank you. And so if you want to click on the link in the chat, you can see it. There are all kinds of different links to it, but I kind of like that one. Okay, so Jeanette, the foot washing, I like the ultra stripping, the foot washing. I have really bad sensitive feet. And so I love the symbolism of it, but I have never stepped forward to volunteer about it. So, and Dory notes, yeah, the capitalism and the profit. And so they have been commercialized. There was an interesting article in an economics journal that actually showed that they studied Hanukkah and Jews. The more liberal Jews, so the Reform and just Jews, self-reported way more attention and commitment to Hanukkah, which makes sense. You know, Orthodox Jews who are fairly insulated don't really pay attention to Hanukkah. And then they actually did a study of per capita spending by county at Hanukkah time. And they discovered that people who lived in counties with fewer Jews spent more money. And so, you know, again, if you're, you know, sort of a purist, you say it's a minor holiday. If you agree with Amitai Etzioni, you say, who needs recommitment more than Reform Jews living in a predominantly Christian part of the world, right? And especially with the kids. So, a movement to do everyday things in an intentional, ritualistic way. And so that's where I think I kind of disagree with Etzioni's idea of a holiday. You know, Jews are supposed to say 100 blessings a day. So if each of those blessings takes a day, you see how that just sort of doesn't work. So to some extent, that recommitment can be packaged in, you know, a very few minutes. And I think that, you know, the 2 minutes of silence is a good example. 24 fireworks displays from your, how many of you celebrate the holidays by medicating your dog? Never mind.
Just as a parent, I don't enjoy 4th of July because it's very hard to get a child to sleep when she either has to stay up super late to watch the fireworks because it's so, being this far north, it
right,
wait till dark, it's very late, and then the fireworks, she was not a fan of fireworks last year, so.
And maybe, I don't know, earplugs or something.
We'll be in Hawaii this year for the 4th of July, and it'll be interesting to see what if it's different there than it is here in Nebraska.
Wow.
So.
Report back on that. I want to know about that. Yeah. Huh. Okay. And of course, you know, there's a whole thing, Thanksgiving and Christmas, that Christmas for, you know, and this is another mini tirade for people who say Hanukkah was a minor holiday. So was Christmas, people. It wasn't celebrated at all until the 4th century. It was banned in Boston. The Puritans fined people who took off work on Christmas. And actually, it was Abraham Lincoln who made Christmas a national holiday during the Civil War, because it was kind of Thanksgiving was the Puritan thing and Christmas was the Southern thing. And so we needed to be one country. And so we celebrated them both. So there you go. I think I interrupted somebody. Jan, were you gonna say something when I kept talking? No? Okay. So if you had a holiday to eliminate, which was our task, if you had a holiday to just get rid of, what would it be? You want them all?
I would get rid of the personal fireworks and just stick to firework displays.
Have it go back to being a public recommitment.
Yeah, for not only for the like public unity, but also my sanity,
Yeah.
my sleep. With our neighbors, it's still midnight or so.
Yeah.
One thing I do miss, my previous job, I worked for the state of Nebraska, and Arbor Day is a state holiday, and so I always got that day off, which was nice.
Okay.
I didn't plant trees, but I should have.
Okay. Yeah, I live very close to Nebraska City. And so Arbor Day, and when we talk about personal like regional holidays, do you remember when the state quarters came out and Iowa put Arbor Day on their quarter? And down here, that was almost, there was almost another civil war, because it's our holiday. It's Nebraska. What are they doing? Putting it, it was, people got very upset. And I have no idea why they thought they claimed Arbor Day. They were admitted to the Union first, so they got their quarter first. But yeah, it was a thing. Which was interesting, because on the other hand, we'd kind of like Arbor Day to be, a national thing, but a national thing that started in Nebraska along with iodized salt. And then from there, you can do what you want.
Nice.
I noticed that Jeanette posted in the chat, I think we need more holidays, not fewer.
Okay.
And one thing I've been thinking about in this time here is that I'm from a town of 150. There's no commas or zeros or anything behind that. And back in 1976, my dad helped start the Great Cordova Pigeon Race, which is now an annual on the last Sunday in July. This little town of 150 gets together and releases some homing pigeons. And my dad used to say, it's just a good excuse for the community to get together. Yeah. And I think that's what I really do think it's like recommitment. As I've been reflecting on that, so many small towns that I'm familiar with have some kind of, iconic day for them in the summer, where they'll have, like my town, the pigeon race, or, a polka festival or whatever. And I think it's to do what you said, and that is recreate that sense of society, and bring people in from, like in my hometown, there's the town, but there's the neighbors in the country too, that are part of the community, really. So it just helps recreate that community. So I think that's where maybe Jeanette is kind of parallel there with having more holidays.
Down here, I'm in Stella, which is about 160 people. And they do a wonderful job with Memorial Day. And, I see, because I always go up and, put flowers on the graves of the 4 generations of my family who are up there. And I see people coming with buckets of water and sponges, to wash down the gravestones so they look really nice for the holiday. And then there's a program at the cemetery. And then there's a lunch out at the Prairie Union Church, and people really do come back for it. It's a time to come home. And yeah, that's definitely a kind of recommitment. That's good. Yeah. So. Well, thank you. I think there's one more comment in the chat. Okay. Yeah. Jan said she had to leave. Yep.
Well, so, thank you, Laura. That was wonderful.
Okay. Thank you. That was really, really interesting and thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, continue to share your thoughts.
Absolutely.
Because I think this is going to be kind of my research area going forward, because I really do find the whole thing fascinating. And I'll look forward to Megan's report on 4th of July in Hawaii.
Yeah, I will certainly share that. Thank you all so much.
Loud exploding ukuleles or something.
Oh yeah, coconuts everywhere. Yeah.
There we go.
Well, thank you all for coming. We'll see you guys. we should say. Yeah, I like Jeanette said baby people shouldn't celebrate holidays they don't care about and only celebrate those who do. I like that too. So, all right, thank you all.
You.